Welcome to Don't Say Adulting,
a podcast by Grotto Network.
hosted by Jane O'Connor
And Mike Rossetti.
It's the show where I ask the questions that I want to know.
And also, I'm here too.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome to Don't Say
It.
Adulting.
No.
Hi, Mike.
No. Jane. Jane.
Michael.
Oh, mama.
It's been too long.
Honestly. A week? How have I lived?
This is the show where we talk about adult problems.
Right. Which I have none of.
None at all.
Nope.
And I'm just starting to have. So.
Just starting, or like slow lead up to just
Yeah.
living adult wreck.
And today we're looking at a question that, came up pretty early in
What was it?
my coming into adulthood. How do you get a job?
Sorry, when are you defining your coming into adulthood?
I guess legally at 18.
Well, and is that what you're sticking with?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I think, not to get too into the conceit of the show, but I think, I'm an adult.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's just trying to address these little small problems that come up in adulthood to varying degrees. And, the stuff that you don't really learn in school that you might be curious about. The thing that really ignited this one.
Unless you're in the school of hard knocks like me. Had to work at the pool at age 12.
Parents forced me out.
Oh, dear.
But no, the question that ignited
yes.
this one was,
Yeah,
I was curious about, when I was applying for jobs, I was looking up stuff about the interview. And I was like, what, out of all those stereotypical questions, what's really the purpose of asking, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or what's your greatest weakness? Because they're always like, how do you answer that without, saying perfectionism, or I just work too hard? What are employers looking for when they ask you that question? And that kind of, I was like, we should do an episode on just the job search in general. And
Totally.
especially when you're new and you're just entering the job market, or maybe you're trying to switch careers.
Get back into it.
Trying to get back into it. And so, I don't know, I just had a lot of questions about that. And how many jobs have you had?
As an adult.
Yeah, starting from pool boy. We can start there.
I was shining shoes.
No, how many?
I was shining shoes at the soda fountain for 5 cents back.
Let me rephrase it. How many full-time jobs?
Full-time jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
Teacher, chaplain. 5. Which I think is probably.
Did you know what you were going to do after college?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be. Well, I was planning on being a teacher. I did not foresee myself in this role, but I was, trained teacher.
Okay.
Taught for 4 years.
So you kind of left.
Hated the kids.
Love the job, but hated the kids.
Love English, but 12-year-olds? Forget about no. They were fine.
Okay. So you did switch career paths then?
I did, yeah.
As evidenced by this show.
Yeah, I never anticipated working in this context.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was like giving a little spiel at the school. And I remember some parents coming to me and one of them was like, you would have a great podcast voice. Oh my God, have you thought about podcasting?
Wow. You
and
just recalled this?
I think I've thought of it a couple of times since we've started this, but I don't think I've shared that with you. But yeah, someone did say that to me one time. I was like, oh, no way. I mean, I would never thought of that. I
Me neither.
I don't think I feel like as was listening to your voice every day, I still wonder. It's like,
I was like, hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike, you got a voice.
You want to come on to my podcast? And it worked out.
I mean, well, it's not over yet.
Yeah.
I mean.
But, okay, so you switched career paths.
I did indeed.
What were the biggest challenges, do you think, in doing that? Compared to just maybe the first time? Because it sounds like you went right out of college with your teaching degree and became a teacher.
I did.
Was that straightforward in terms of
as
the
far
actual
as like,
process?
Well, I mean, I had to I was at the school for the whole day, taught a lesson, got harassed by kids kind of intentionally, to see how I'd respond to chaos. Interviewed with different people. I mean, I guess that was, I didn't know what else to expect. But I guess my interviews since then I've only had one interview where it's that's when I moved to Ireland. It was 20 minutes. I was like, this is the worst.
So you've only officially had one job interview.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
Wait, sorry. No, I was just saying. So teaching, I had an interview for those two jobs. I interviewed to be a rector at Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And those were like full, robust, like day long, and as was this one.
Yeah.
Whereas like my job to work in Ireland, like the interview for that was like 20 minutes on Zoom. I mean, I was like, this seems kind of like a reckless hire.
Yeah.
Like, thank God. I'm like,
have you looked into me?
Yeah, did you have time? I mean, like,
I'm kind of a loose cannon. I don't know if you've
like you literally, and I think they logged on late. Like, like love those guys, but it was.
Did it feel daunting to switch from teaching to?
No.
I guess you were still in an academic environment.
I was in an academic environment, yeah. In higher ed, I was like, oh, I think this. I was joking about the kids, obviously. Like, I don't hate kids, but like, I think I prefer working with folks in this
with
age
adults.
demographic. Yeah, with adults. Yeah, to be honest.
This is the perfect podcast for you then.
Truly, I'm so honored that you thought it'd be great to speak on this.
So, okay, for you, what are the things you get the most nervous about for job interviews?
This is.
Sorry, this is kind of turning into a weird interview of you.
No, I love it. I've been waiting for someone to ask me these questions. I actually don't get super nervous for in-person interviews. It's the Zoom interviews that I've actually don't think I thrive in quite as much.
I mean,
I think I'm so reliant on this in-person energy vibes.
I've thought about that now. So now I have a full-time job.
I mean,
and
you do.
We have
Congrats.
Yeah.
We haven't. Cheers to that, right?
Yeah, I know. I made it. And then they were like, actually, can you go on air too and represent our company?
You forced yourself into this role. No one was like, hey, Jen, want to do this?
But now, since working here, we've hired other people. And
you got a little bit of the old hiring.
I've seen the other side of it, and I think that the Zoom thing is a disadvantage for most people.
It's terrible.
I think there's something, obviously something very natural about
just this energy.
all the small things you pick up on, especially when we've interviewed people in a group. Yeah. I think there's a lot of advantage
for sure.
Because how are you supposed to read the room when you're on a small little screen?
Even as the interviewer, it's just you can't totally read that. I mean, it's a mutually disadvantageous, non-advantageous process. I think I should say for my last job, I did interview people, also hired people.
Yeah, so it has been interesting to be on the other side because I feel like I remember being super nervous. Obviously, I looked up all these things about how do you answer what's your greatest weakness or where do you see yourself in 5 years, which I do believe they asked me where do I see myself in 5 years. Which felt very daunting at the time to hear that.
I wonder, I'd be curious I guess that's just to see hey, is this a place you actually want to be? Which I think is a fair thing to gauge. If someone's
or maybe they're trying to see if you're ambitious, but not too ambitious that you leave.
Subtly ambitious. Right. Yeah. I think that's.
Well, because I think people are always worried, is this are they trying to is this a gotcha question? If you say not at this company, is that.
But if you said that, it's kind of foolish, right? I mean, do you want the job or not?
But I think, and related to what's your greatest weakness, it's the same thing. You're I don't want to just disqualify myself from this job, but I don't want to seem kind of like a jerk. I don't want to seem arrogant and be I just work too hard.
Well, yeah.
I'm just kind of such a hard worker.
That is, I'd be lame.
Well, we'll be able to ask our guest today all these questions. Today we've got.
She's going to she's going to spill the tea.
Hopefully.
I mean,
yeah.
If she doesn't, why is she here, right?
What's your greatest weakness? That's what we'll say.
We're going to ask you the question.
We'll do a little mock interview. No, but today we have Sara Iannone. Who works at the undergraduate career development.
Sounds like a Greek island, doesn't it?
Iannone?
Or Ionic?
Well,
the Iona Sea.
We were reading it and you were like, "Oh, I think it's Italian."
I did initially,
and I almost full send pronounced it the Italian way.
Iannone.
Yeah,
we'll see if she.
But I quickly emailed her and got the right pronunciation.
Right and just of you.
But she works here at the Notre Dame Undergraduate Career Development Center,
the University of Notre Dame.
Assistant Director of Consulting and Data Science. So she's got the facts. She's got the data.
Science.
This could be for another episode.
We actually have more science questions.
All right, we will be right back with our guest.
Sarah.
So don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere and don't say
adulting. All right, everybody, welcome back.
Welcome back
to Don't Say Adulting.
Don't say it.
We are now joined by our guest, Sara Iannone. From Notre Dame. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're
Oh,
good.
well.
Yeah. End of
No
the day.
good. Yeah.
Beginning of the week,
Yeah.
Just talk
Mondays.
to Jane for a half hour.
Yeah.
So it's kinda...
Yeah. He gets kind of tired of me by the end of the day. But do you want to talk a little bit about what you do here? How you're, I don't know. I always feel weird being like, how are you qualified? That's not what I mean.
Yeah.
What are your qualifications?
What's your experience,
Yeah. So I work here at Notre Dame at the Center for Career Development. I'm the assistant director for consulting and data science and analytics careers. So what that means is I'm on the undergraduate team, and I work with students once they've decided kind of the industry path that they want to go in. That's when they meet with me. So I cover those industries, so meeting with a lot of juniors, seniors, some sophomores too, to help them with things like interviews, case interview prep, resumes, things like that, all things in the internship and job search process.
Yes.
Okay. So you're usually not getting kids who have no idea what they want to do, or
No, that's a different team in our office.
it's a totally different specialty.
What's that team called?
Discernment or engagement.
Oh,
Okay.
Those are good terms.
So as you're
Yeah.
discerning different
What you're
career paths.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're in the development stage.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Kind of
Like,
that next
we
step.
know, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think is the most common question you get, or I guess request in terms of advice or help?
Yeah, a lot of resume questions I get. I get a lot of students of where should I apply? How many places should I apply to? Things like that. And the answer isn't always the same because
Yeah.
it depends on each person.
Yeah.
And there are some people who are very lucky and apply to one job and they get it and they're done. And then there are other people who apply to dozens of jobs and they still haven't found anything. So the process is really different for each student because in person, because each person is different and has different skills and things that they desire in a job. So those are some of the things that I actually get asked.
I'm glad you brought up the resume thing, because I think this was something that I was very concerned about when I was applying for jobs. There was like, do you include a photo? Do you not? If you're applying, because I was applying for some more creative jobs, do they want to see that in my resume? Will I, and then I think there's the end of the balance between standing out and being annoying,
Yeah.
Fine line, I imagine.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and with their resume, it's all about, is it readable and is it easy to read and can you read it quickly? And so I'm in my student-facing role now, but I used to be on the employer relations side of things. So I managed, when employers would come to campus and their recruiting strategy. And so I also saw the back end and the other side of how it works of once your resume is submitted, like what happens there? What does it look like? And so it at least for undergraduates entering entry-level roles, it's not much about the graphics and the pictures, which is sad because they're so pretty and they're so beautiful, but then it's harder to find the information. If a recruiter is looking through your resume and they're only scanning it for 10, 15 seconds, they need to find certain things. And if they can't find it, I mean,
They're like,
too bad
I'm giving up.
Yeah. But it's just how it works, especially if hundreds of candidates are applying for a position. Sometimes it's those little things. So
I'm assuming they just have like key terms that they're looking for to like pop up.
Do you think, do these days, I've heard that some companies, if it's large enough, just use machines too, that are looking for certain words.
Yeah, an ATS system, applicant tracking system.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes they do use them because if you're getting, hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah, like how could you possibly?
Are there any terms that apply across the board that any employer is looking for, or is it all pretty individualized?
I would say most jobs want people who are good at communicating and teamwork and those types of things. But what we recommend to students is to tailor your resume for each position that you're applying to. Especially with consulting, they're looking for different things than if you're applying to engineering roles or like banking roles or any other industry. So then a lot of times they'll say on the job description, these are the qualifications we're looking for. These are the 10 things. It's look at those things.
And so it's almost like, have them, but also insert
fill in
them
the blank.
into your...
And I'm not saying, if you don't have the skill, like don't lie on your resume. That's what we don't lie. But it's okay. Like maybe if they want a communicator, maybe having the verb communicate in your resume.
Right.
Make that connection, make that match.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So where do you fall on what is your advice for photos on resumes?
Oh.
When I was looking through templates, there were a lot that offered it.
Is that a common practice? I've never sent a photo of myself to anyone.
I didn't do it.
Okay.
I was like, I don't know if this is really necessary. I'm not applying to be a model or something. But is that, do you get that a lot or?
I would say no photos. And I would say no, nothing really creative or graphic unless you're applying to maybe a graphic design position.
Like a little portfolio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that photo is taking up other space, other real estate that might be more valuable to put in other, accomplishments or things that you've done. So,
people even allowed to ask like what you look like? Or like,
yeah, I don't think.
Well, I mean, I assume you're at this point, if you're putting in the resume, you're offering it up as like a.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
I thought.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know what the advantage is. I just remember because I was like, I downloaded some templates and some of them had a photo option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, hey, I've got a nice smile.
Yeah.
And I'm great at engineering.
Can you tell from this photo that I know a lot about bridges?
And my voice is a sultry when I talk.
Include a recording to hear my voice.
Yeah. But yeah, and on the line of those templates, I just avoid them entirely because a lot of times there are hidden things in there and then you might want to tweak something and then it messes the whole thing up and then it takes time. So
don't even find like an online template type thing is what you're
I think it's easier in the long run just to get a Word doc and figure out the font and the spacing because it's usually much more easily changeable than like a template from online.
Okay. All right.
I'd be curious to hear about like basics of a resume as far as like preferred font, preferred size, script, spacing.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Do you have a go-to they just suggest? It's just Times New Roman for...
Yeah. Times New Roman, sometimes Arial, Cambria, like just a pretty basic.
Standard.
Yeah. It needs to be easy to read and...
Yeah.
Right.
No wingdings.
Well,
That could...
glad I kicked the wingding. I was like,
Okay, so... not moving too far off, but in terms of cover letter, this was one that I also remember really, looking up frantically on the internet, which is who do you address it to?
letter.
So if you have a contact there, I would address it to
The contact. Okay.
If you don't, I would try and use your powers of the internet and Google and LinkedIn and the
Find who I'd go
website
to.
and try and find someone.
Yeah.
And if all of those efforts fail, just a pretty generic, dear hiring manager, dear sir, dear madam, that works.
If you can't prove but if you can't like for certain find who would be getting it, are you better off just using the...
Even if you have a
hiring?
feeling, you're like, I think it's going to be this person.
Or is it like better off to just like kind of take the chance?
I think I think probably people have differing opinions on that, but it's
Yeah.
probably better to take the chance because then at least you showed like, hey, I
looked into
tried.
this, yeah.
I tried, I made the effort. Versus just doing the standard. So,
I only asked because that did happen to me where the person I thought I was going to was just like, no.
Yeah. And that's something I wouldn't really stress over too much.
Sure.
What about, so I know we just said don't stress about it, but
like,
what about to whom it may concern? Is that too like blasé or...
You're showing how you know how to use whom.
Yeah.
If we're going to impress people.
Yeah. I think that's probably fine too.
Okay, so let's say the resume, the cover letter,
Sure.
they've caught their attention. They've asked you to come in for an interview.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being very freaked out about the interview, looking up like common questions on the interview. First, okay, this is actually the thing that inspired this podcast. So I'm going to jump right to it.
Okay.
Which was the question, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Why did they ask that? And what are they looking for? Because what if you don't like see yourself at that job? What if you see this as sort of a in between job? What are you supposed to say?
Yeah. No one knows what they're doing in 5 years from now, so it's impossible to predict that. But with that type of question, they're looking to see, okay, what are your career goals? Is this role that you're applying for aligning with your goals? How does that fit in? And you don't have to be as specific as I want to be at XYZ company in 5 years. You could say, I want to be within this space doing this certain thing. I know to do that, I need XYZ things. In this role, it is my understanding that I'm going to be developing, XYZ, and you can talk about that more. So they want to see that alignment, see if you have a plan and if you have a goal. I would try not to be too generic of, I want to work on a team in a fast-paced environment with others. It's just so generic. Like, be
Yeah.
specific about those certain things. So that's how I would approach that kind of question.
They're not looking for you to necessarily say like, I envision myself being here in 5 years in
Yeah.
the same job or something.
Yeah,
That's what I mean. It seems like there's a lot of weakness. It's like, well, I want them to think that I'm going to stay here. Not lie, but like, that I'll be a reliable employee.
Mhm.
But I also don't want to. I feel like they're looking for some sort of ambition as well, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, they really want to see, like, what are your goals? Do you have a plan towards those goals? Does this align?
With what we're-
Even if it's not here in 5 years, they kind of want to see too, okay, is this person committed to staying for, a bit to, get those skills to make it to their next step.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
And this was another one,
Oh, yeah.
which was, we talked about this before, when they ask, like, what is your greatest weakness?
Mhm.
What is, that always I feel like almost feels like a gotcha question. You
Yeah.
know, like, what's the thing that we shouldn't hire you for almost?
yeah. So it's meant to be a tricky question. And they want to see, do you have self-awareness, and are you able to recognize, your weakness and know the steps that you need to take to improve that weakness. So I think be genuine, be honest. I wouldn't say a weakness that is really critical to the role. Like maybe for this,
I actually don't know how to type.
Yeah.
I can't communicate, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hopefully you're not applying to a role where you have that critical skill is not there. But be genuine and honest, and identify, I'm aware that this is a weakness of mine. These are the steps that I'm taking towards it to make that better. And I would say try not, again, to be too generic. Like, don't say, I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah, or I just work too hard.
Yeah. No, that's like, okay.
Could you give a good example of those types of things? Like, rather than saying I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah, so maybe micromanagement or lack of patience, or maybe not knowing how to prioritize or delegate or say no to things, or things like that.
Yeah.
And there are actually some really good lists online. If you just
Sure.
type in, give me some really good weakness examples.
I said the patience one earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, and then being like, and I'm addressing this by realizing I should put more trust in this, or
Yeah, or if you have a specific example of, like, one time I was doing XYZ and this happened and now I'm doing this, to anytime you can, like, give a story, it's almost like giving evidence.
Yeah.
And saying, like, this is what happened when, this is, like, essentially proving my assertion that I have this weakness. That is good too.
Okay. What are some other common questions or things that you should probably prepare in advance?
A good one is, like, why this role or why this organization. Be really specific. I try and come up with an answer that you can't just copy paste and say to any other organization. Like, don't say, I want to work in a fast-paced environment on a team. Okay, it's like, okay, well, you can work in an ER and be an ER nurse, or you can work as a firefighter. Yeah.
You get your adrenaline fix elsewhere.
Yeah.
This is going to be, if I'm ever in a hiring position, my new answer for if they say that.
Fast paced.
It could be faster than this,
So, like, do say, like, it's important to do your homework in advance. Like, look up the organization, like, what are their values, their mission, like, what have they posted about on LinkedIn, or what's going on in the news about them, so you kind of have that awareness of, like, what are their priorities, what's their future.
Right. Is alluding to things like location wise in an interview, like saying, like, you want to be in a place, and that's kind of like a big factor as to why you're applying for a job. Is that, like, off-putting to people?
Or do they take that as sort of like, oh, they don't really want the job,
they
just want to be here, or their
South
husband
Bend.
works here, so they want to work here?
Yeah, I think it's perfectly okay to mention that, but I wouldn't rely
But
on
don't
only
be like,
that.
I love Italian beef, so I want to be back in Chicago.
That sounds really specific.
Maybe I said it. I didn't say that in an interview ever, but I would like to clarify.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can see it being an advantage and a disadvantage, because if you're going to, I could see it, like, if you're like, oh, my family's from here and I would be by my family, that could be a sign of longevity at the job.
Yeah.
And it's also not really a negative,
Yeah. So I think if that's true, I think it doesn't hurt to say that, but you also
Don't
have
make
to.
it the central.
Yeah, it's not the central thing. It's okay if you want to be in Chicago. There are hundreds, probably
you
thousands.
could work at the Italian beef shop yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Sorry, the new show. What is it? That show?
Oh, the Bear. Yeah. That's a fast-paced environment.
Talk about fast-paced. Yeah. Have you heard of that show?
No.
Wow. We won't get into it.
It's a bear. It's set in Chicago, so I guess
It's like an Italian beef show. Anyway.
Okay. All right. Back to the finding a job thing. All right. So a few steps back.
Okay.
One piece of advice I got a lot for, especially the creative industry, but I assume this, goes to many industries, was networking and the importance of networking. And that really terrified me as someone who is a bad communicator.
Stop. I don't want to hear that.
I was not really sure how to initiate that, who to initiate it with. It's such, in terms of the creative industry as well, it's such a huge, market and industry. What is your advice for that or getting started?
Yeah, so networking is very important. Think of it as relationship management and relationship maintenance. And networking is important. Like some people say that 70 or some others say close to 80% of opportunities are found through networking. So that's a big stat.
That's noted.
Yeah. And networking is important because, your network can help you. They can share information about a certain career path or industry. They can also maybe help propel you to that next step, whatever that is. So I think of your network as not just maybe alumni or, people that I don't know that are in higher positions than me, but think of people you already might know, like former supervisors or family or friends or your roommate or your roommate's mom or, those people are already existing in your network. So I think if you're just getting started, maybe take a baby step of, okay, who's someone that I already know, that I already have a solid relationship with, who I could ask them about, their career path or whatever it is. Because once you do it, you just have to keep doing it and practicing it, and it gets easier.
And keep meeting people. And
Yeah.
It's not necessarily always like going into like a massive room and like going up, hi, I'm Jane.
That's what it feels like, especially with the internet. I'm just walking into this huge room that everybody's been in for 20 years. And I'm just like, hey, everybody, want to help me out?
New kid on the block.
Yeah. And don't think of it as like a one-way transaction. Like I always approach it, it's like a two-way, it's a relationship.
Right.
So whenever I'm like talking to someone about their career, it's okay, like you've helped me so much. Like what can I do to help you?
Sure.
Or what can I share with you? It's like it's a two-way street.
Okay. Do you think that you still have, not leverage, that's not the right word, but something to give when you are a 22-year-old college graduate in this relational aspect?
Can you reciprocate is what you're saying?
Yeah, in terms of, what can I do for you? Does that sound, I don't know, do people take that seriously?
I think people do. I've had people ask me that before and I felt, I have nothing to add, but I think you'd be surprised, even if it's just, people that I work with at Notre Dame, and I'm talking to a more senior person. They might be asking me like, tell me about how it's been going and as a new person in this role or whatever. It may not be exactly related to the role, might be something different. And I don't know, you never know. So it never hurts to like put that, even if it's not right now, I don't know what I can help you with.
Sure.
It might be something in the future that they need someone for.
But I plan to be very successful in the future. So,
Glad.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just asking that because I feel I'm new in the whole full-time work thing.
You have so much to offer, Jan.
What do I have?
You're a rising star, really.
And I was actually I was thinking at first, like, I guess it doesn't hurt, really. Are there mistakes you can make, though, in the networking process? Bridges you can burn and common
we have
mistakes.
A strong nod,
Is there some things you should not do, etiquette-wise or just approach-wise?
Yeah, I think it's always good to say thank you.
Yeah.
Never assume that someone will help you. Like, don't go in with that attitude of like, I'm just asking them for a job and they'll give it to me, because that kind of puts them off. Puts people off.
Yeah.
I think too, like, do your homework. So if you have, set up a coffee with someone and you want to ask them about their career path, like, look them up, look up their LinkedIn, look up their bio, like come up with a list of questions you want to ask them, because if someone's, taking your time, you don't want to go and be like, so tell me about your career.
You got a job.
Yeah. Okay. You brought up LinkedIn. Is that something that you would say in 2023 is still really important to keep up for people, in Gen Zers who are entering the job market now? Would you still recommend that they open up a LinkedIn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's another relationship management tool. So and it's a good way to keep track of who's in your network.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, you won't be reaching out to your network every week. You may only be reaching out to a couple contacts maybe 3 times a year, maybe 4. It depends. So that's a way to subtly stay in touch with them. If they've posted their career update, you can like it or comment on it, and it's to stay top of mind. So it's good for the relationship management piece of networking. And then there are also so many roles and jobs on Handshake too. So it's good to be on that if you're looking for your next step. And then it's also good, I think, for research, because you can get really into the filters and filtering people, and you can filter by what company did they work at in the past and what school did they go to. So, and a lot of people just have their profiles, available. So you can do your own researching of, this person went here and then they went here.
I feel weird that they can see that you looked at their profile.
Wait, people can see if you look at their...
I think the premium people can see exactly.
Okay.
And the non-premium, it's just someone.
Do you recommend going preem?
Is that what you're calling it?
I did it for a bit and I was like,
yeah. I don't know. I've done it for a bit too. I don't know if it's really worth it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've gotten to the point I don't care if someone looked at my profile.
Okay.
That does kind of freak me out though a little bit. I feel like I'm very sensitive, even when I'm on the social media sites that I do regular. I'll be like, can they tell that I just clicked on their profile?
I mean, if you're really worried, do an incognito window.
The old incognito.
Yeah.
Never thought of that.
Yeah. And I also have noticed there is a social media aspect to LinkedIn, because people will comment on things and like posts on LinkedIn. Is that, I'm guessing that's also... I mean, it feels weird. It seems like you almost are catering that in a weird way, because people are going to be looking at that for a job thing.
Yeah.
Do you recommend being... I guess this seems like a dumb question, but being super active, I guess, on LinkedIn, that can't hurt, right?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. I mean, don't post something for the sake of posting something. Yeah. It is up to you how much you engage with it.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of times recruiters too post hey, we're hiring for this role.
Use almost as a bulletin board.
Yeah.
Okay. I use mine solely as a dating site.
Hey, I went to work today. Dear. Hey, Jane.
Check out my LinkedIn. I know.
Thanks, Jane.
Yeah. Well, if you look me up now, by the way, I do not have a LinkedIn page, so I should maybe rectify that. And
you don't have one, period?
Yeah, I don't have one. Was that bad to admit?
No, I mean, I don't think anyone's judging
No, I can give you some tips for creating it.
Let's hear that. Right? What should Jane do for that?
Are there things that you actually do see people regularly doing wrong on their LinkedIn where you're like, oh, you should do this instead? Any, tips or advice?
Not too much. I mean, it's be careful what you post online, of course.
Yeah.
And don't be like, whoa, my boss was the worst today. It's because everyone sees that.
Like a public diary.
Yeah, no.
A blog.
Today was a little hard at work today. Mike was giving me a hard time.
Yeah. I mean, I think as LinkedIn, you can be a little bit more creative with it, because you're not stuck to a page or two for your resume.
That's a place for a photo too.
Exactly. You can put photos, you can put videos. Maybe if you worked on this podcast, maybe I'll post this on my LinkedIn.
I mean, why would not?
Yeah.
Hey, Jan, we're gonna make it big time.
Are there anything else for
the linked?
I mean, it's nice to have a nice photo, background photo. Just make sure all the information that's on your LinkedIn is consistent with your resume.
Okay.
Too.
I have a question this. I just want to, for the record.
Okay.
On the record.
This is.
I'm not planning on quitting my job.
Oh dear.
But do you have tips and advice for people out there who might
or may
not be thinking about leaving, in terms of etiquette or how to go about that job search process while you're currently working for another company? Yeah.
So, I mean, it's always better to be in a place of don't quit and then not have anything, because you don't know how long that process could take. You never know. It could take a week, a month, 2 months. So I think as long as you go about it respectfully, I mean, most supervisors know that you're not going to stay at an organization for 20, 30, 40 years. That's just not how it is. A lot of people change jobs really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they know. Well, I hope that, they're not expecting you to be there forever. So I think if you just go about it in a respectful way with your supervisor and keeping them informed. I mean, you don't have to tell them, hey, I'm interviewing this week. And you have to use your best judgment and be tactful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, don't burn bridges too on the way out. That's
Right.
They could
Like, don't quit suddenly.
yeah, or don't just, those people are in your network too now, and you never know where they might go.
Pop in.
Yeah.
God, I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not, because I think I've never done it, and I don't plan on doing it anytime soon.
Thanks for clearing.
But I imagine, knowing my personality, I'd be a little stressed in terms of relationships. But it is, I guess, it's very common to switch jobs, especially these days, to move.
Yeah.
To seek other opportunities. This isn't the U.S. Supreme Court, okay? I'm not.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was like, why reference that? Like a lifelong commitment. You're not the Pope, for God's sake.
Okay, so that might have been maybe a better reference.
No, I mean, I get it. No, I love it.
Okay, so let's say you've finished the interview. What are some other etiquette tips for post-interview in terms of following up, or maybe even you get turned down? How are ways to keep up this relationship almost? What's common practice there? Yeah,
so I think after an interview, always sending a thank you note. I mean, if you want to handwrite it, that's always great too. That's an extra step. An email works too, but just saying thank you so much. Yeah. I'm really excited about this role. Maybe mention something specific that you talked about so that it shows like, oh, they remembered, they care, they're invested.
A little personalized.
Yes. Yep. And if you don't, get an opportunity, it means say thank you too. Yep. You could ask, is there any feedback you have? A lot of times organizations may not be able to share that with you, but I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. But just say thank you for the time, and you never know who you'll meet again. So always end it on a
positive.
Yeah. I was just going to mention as a little anecdote that when I applied for this job, I applied for a different position first and got turned down for that. And they contacted me and were like, hey, we have another position open. So never hurts to try and keep up that relationship.
Did you try to keep it up after?
I think I sent like a little thank you. Anyway. Yeah.
Nice. That was very...
And if I didn't, I guess I was just that impressed. No, I'm kidding. Okay, final question here. Because I know we gotta wrap this up. I know. Yeah. So sad.
Let's hear it though.
Do you have any resources that you might suggest to our audience in terms of whether they're just coming out of college, maybe they're looking for a new career, who knows? For anyone who's looking for a job, do you have any just go-to resources that you often advise?
Yeah, there's some really great ones online. The Muse is a great career resource blog essentially that I really like. There's another resource called Big Interview where you can practice some common interview questions and they grade you and give you feedback, which is great. A lot of institutions now have an alumni professional network, and that can be great to sign up for too, because that's another way to stay connected with your network and see who's really engaged. And sometimes they have, job boards for alumni exclusively. So it's good to keep your eyes on those because there's that connection with another alum, and alums usually are inclined to hire someone who is also an alum. Yeah. So those are some good ones that I would recommend to look at. There are a couple websites too, but you have to be careful. Like resume review sites, and they check, is your resume tailored to this specific job description?
Okay.
Like one of them is Resume Worded. There are a couple, so they can be kind of handy, but you have to be careful sometimes because they might say your resume only is a 31% match, and you're like, oh my god, I'm failing.
Yeah.
But they can be kind of interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. As if your resume is like, if they come back with 31%, it's like, okay, it's just the computer.
It's not. Yeah. Sure.
So, yeah. But things like that I think are really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems that institutions also probably have a place on campus that you can go to. But not everyone's in college looking for a job, so. The Muse is the
the Muse is one that I really like, and I think it has really good advice. And they have answers to a lot of questions, or if you're like, I don't know how to write this email, they have examples and things like that.
Yeah, so. That sounds like a handy tool.
Yeah, well, this is all great advice. I remember when I was applying, especially the interview thing, I was just so nervous. Like the one thing you say, they're going to interpret a certain way, and then you're going to lose the job.
Well,
I mean. But there's a chance,
Yeah. I think practice those like common behavioral interview questions. I like the S.T.A.R technique.
What's that?
So it stands for situation, task, action, result.
Oh.
So if they ask you questions like, tell me about a time when you were a leader, use that framework in your head to be like, okay, this is one time when I was in this situation.
Yes.
This was the task / problem. This is the action that I took. And as a result, X percent more people went to our website or, whatever it is.
Ain't that a handy acronym?
It's a good one.
I haven't heard that before.
We actually, our producers put a question up here. This is a good one.
Oh.
Just a little last minute one. Should you ask about salary in an interview? Is that good form, bad form?
Yeah, I think you can. I would be careful about when in the interview, like
first thing,
don't
hey, how much money we talking?
Yeah.
Am I getting Italian beef with this?
Yeah. Probably not the first thing.
Italian beef is for after you get the job.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be like a follow-up question, or maybe not the first interview. A lot of times, and now some laws do require companies to post the salary range so you can kind of have an idea. So you could ask about it, but just be tactful about when and how.
I'm concerned about money. I'm trying to make a living here.
I feel like I saw a comic once that was like the interviewer's just, what interests you in this position? And he was like, well, I'm very interested in making money and paying my rent.
Yeah.
So then you can, go.
Yeah, probably don't start off with that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on, giving us your time.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah. These were great tips that
Honestly.
I will keep in mind, not for any time soon.
No, certainly not.
At all?
Nope.
My boss listens to this, so I have to put this in as like a,
It was a helpful plug
Yeah.
for yourself.
And thanks to all of you guys for listening. This has been Don't Say Adulting.
Say it.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Ciao for now. Don't Say Adulting is a Grotto Network podcast produced by Jane O'Connor, Mike Rossetti, Kevin DeClute, and Josh Long. Additional production and editing done by Kevin DeClute. Graphics and animation by Becky Rogers. Grotto Network is Director Javi Zubizarreta, Senior Producer Josh Long, Senior Content Editor Jesse McCartney, Art Director Becky Rogers, Senior Manager for Community Engagement Mike Rossetti, Social Media Manager Adrian Garaldi, Web Content Strategist Michaela Douglas, Producer Kevin DeClute, Associate Producer Jane O'Connor. Special thanks to our guest and Notre Dame Studios.